The stars had always been quiet for humanity. For 200 years, they had reached into the darkness of space, built colonies on distant moons, and wondered if they were alone. On that cold morning in March 2187, they got their answer. Admiral Laura Bennett stood in the command center of Earth Defense Command, her eyes fixed on the massive holographic display in front of her. The room was silent except for the soft hum of computers and the nervous breathing of her officers. On the screen, thousands of red dots appeared at the edge of the solar system. Each dot was a warship. Each warship was larger than anything humanity had ever built. "How many?" Laura asked, her voice steady despite the fear growing in her chest. "Over 3,000 ships, Admiral," a young officer replied. "They dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Neptune. They're heading toward Earth." Laura had spent her entire life preparing for threats. She had fought pirates in the asteroid belt. She had stopped terrorist attacks on Mars, but nothing had prepared her for this. Nothing could prepare anyone for an alien invasion. The communication console beeped, and a new signal appeared. It was coming from the alien fleet. "They want to talk," the communications officer said. Laura nodded. "Put it through." The holographic display flickered, and a face appeared. It was not human. The creature had gray skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and a mouthful of sharp teeth. It wore armor that looked like it was made from the bones of its enemies. When it spoke, its voice was deep and cold. "I am High Warlord Zyrax of the Valorian Dominion. Your species has been observed and judged. You are weak. You are primitive. You will surrender your planet and your people to us within 48 hours. If you refuse, we will destroy every city, every ship, and every human in existence. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. The room remained silent for a long moment. Officers looked at each other with fear in their eyes. Some were already thinking about their families. Others were thinking about running. Laura took a deep breath. "Get me Commander Danny Harris. Wherever he is, bring him home now." 8 hours later, a small ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Mars. Inside, Commander Danny Harris sat in the pilot's seat, his hands moving across the controls as he pushed the engines to their limit. He had been exploring an uncharted system when the emergency message reached him. Now he was racing home faster than he had ever flown before. Danny was 42 years old, with short brown hair and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. He had joined the military at 18 and had spent his life protecting humanity from every threat he could find. But aliens? Real aliens with a real invasion fleet. That was something new. His communication system crackled to life. "Commander Harris, this is Earth Defense Command. Admiral Bennett is waiting for you in the main briefing room. Landing clearance granted for Bay 7. "Understood," Danny replied. "I'll be there in 10 minutes. When Danny walked into the briefing room, he found Laura standing alone in front of the holographic display. The image of the alien fleet filled the room. Thousands of red dots slowly moving toward the blue dot that represented Earth. "Danny," Laura said without turning around, "thank you for coming so quickly. You said it was an emergency. What's happening?" Laura finally turned to face him. Her face was calm, but Danny could see the weight in her eyes. "We're being invaded. An alien empire called the Valorian Dominion. They've given us 48 hours to surrender." Danny stared at the display for a long moment. "How strong are they?" "I received a secret message from someone calling himself Ambassador Torvik. He claims to represent a neutral species in something called the Galactic Assembly. According to him, the Valorians have conquered over 200 species. No one has ever defeated them in battle. No one has ever survived refusing their demands." Danny walked closer to the display, studying the formation of the enemy fleet. What do the world leaders say? They're scared. Most of them want to surrender. They think it's the only way to save some of our people. And what do you think? Lavra was quiet for a moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small data chip. This is everything Torvik sent us about the Valorians. Their ships, their weapons, their tactics. He sent it because he felt sorry for us. He thought we deserved to know what was coming before we died. Danny took the chip and held it up to the light. That's nice of him. Danny, I didn't call you back just to watch us surrender. I called you because I need someone who can fight. Someone who won't give up even when the odds are impossible. Danny looked at her with a small smile forming on his face. Lavra, in my entire career, I've never had good odds. The enemy has always been bigger, stronger, and better equipped. But you know what I've learned? What? The odds don't matter if you refuse to lose. Lavra felt something she hadn't felt since the alien ships appeared. She felt hope. I'm giving you command of our entire defense fleet, she said. Every ship we have. I need you to find a way to stop them. Danny nodded and turned to leave. But before he reached the door, he stopped and looked back at the display one more time. The alien fleet was massive. It was terrifying. It was designed to crush any resistance without mercy. Lavra, he said quietly, send a message to every military base on Earth and every colony in the solar system. Tell them to prepare for war. And tell them one more thing. What's that? Danny's smile grew wider. Tell them the Valorians picked the wrong planet. In the cold darkness of space, High Warlord Zyrax sat on his throne aboard the flagship Devastation. He had conquered 63 worlds in his career. He had burned cities, enslaved billions, and watched countless species beg for mercy at his feet. Humanity would be no different. They were soft creatures from a small planet. They would break just like all the others. His second-in-command approached the throne. Warlord, we have intercepted human communications. They appear to be mobilizing their military forces. Zyrax laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. Let them play with their little toys. It will make their defeat even more satisfying. He had no idea how wrong he was. The flagship Horizon floated in Earth's orbit like a silent guardian. It was the largest ship humanity had ever built. But compared to the Valorian warships approaching from the outer solar system, it looked like a toy. Commander Danny Harris stood on the bridge, studying data on a holographic screen while his officers worked around him. Lieutenant Katie Morgan walked up beside him, her tablet clutched in her hands. She was 31 years old, with red hair tied back in a tight ponytail and sharp green eyes that never missed a detail. As the ship's tactical officer, it was her job to find ways to kill enemies. Right now, she had never faced a harder job. I've been going through the data from Ambassador Torvik, she said. The Valorians are terrifying. Their weapons can cut through our armor like paper. Their ships are faster than ours. Their shields can absorb almost any attack we throw at them. Danny nodded slowly. Almost any attack? Katie paused. What do you mean? You said almost. That means there's something that can hurt them. Katie scrolled through her tablet, looking for the information she had read earlier. Their shields operate on a specific energy frequency. It's different from anything we use. Torvik included the technical details, but I don't understand half of it. Danny tapped his communication device. Get me Dr. Ryan Cole from the Science Division. I need him on the horizon within the hour. Dr. Ryan Cole arrived 45 minutes later, looking like he had not slept in days. He was a thin man with messy black hair and glasses that were always sliding down his nose. But behind those tired eyes was one of the most brilliant minds on Earth. Commander Harris, Ryan said as he rushed onto the bridge. I came as fast as I could. What do you need? Danny pointed at the screen showing the Valorian shield data. Can you break this? Ryan studied the information for a long moment. His eyes moved back and forth as he processed the complex equations and energy patterns. Then, slowly, a smile spread across his face. "Yes," he said. "Yes, I think I can. Their shields are powerful, but they have a weakness. If we can generate a counter-frequency pulse, it will cause their shields to destabilize. They won't fail completely, but they'll flicker. For a few seconds at a time, their ships will be vulnerable." Katie leaned forward. "A few seconds? That's not much time." "It's enough," Danny said. "If we can create openings in their defense, even small ones, we can do damage. We just need to be fast and precise." Ryan nodded excitedly. "I'll need access to our best engineers and all the equipment on the ship. I think I can have a working prototype in 20 hours. "You have 12, Danny replied. "The Valorians aren't going to wait for us to be ready." While Ryan rushed to the engineering bay, Danny received a message from Admiral Laura Bennett. The news was not good. "The Valorians are getting impatient," Laura said through the holographic display. "They've sent a smaller force toward our lunar mining outpost. 50 ships. We have a garrison of 300 soldiers there." Danny's jaw tightened. "They're testing us. They want to see how we respond. The soldiers at the outpost are asking for orders. Do they fight or evacuate?" Danny thought for a moment. The smart choice was to evacuate. Save the soldiers and let the Valorians have the outpost. But if humanity ran from the first attack, it would send a message. It would tell the Valorians that humans were exactly what they expected: weak, afraid, easy to break. "Tell them to fight," Danny said. "And tell them help is on the way." At the lunar outpost, Sergeant Kyle Patterson received the orders with a grim smile. He was a big man with a shaved head and scars on his hands from years of combat. He had fought in wars on 3 different planets, and he had never lost a battle. He wasn't planning to start now. "Listen up," Kyle shouted to his soldiers gathered in the outpost's main hall. "We've got aliens coming. 50 ships full of monsters who think they can walk all over us. We're going to show them how wrong they are." The soldiers cheered, their fear turning into determination. Kyle had studied the data about Valorian ground forces. They were big, strong, and used advanced weapons. But they were also predictable. They expected enemies to form defensive lines and wait to be slaughtered. That's what every other species had done. Kyle had a different plan. When the Valorian ships landed and their soldiers marched out, they found the outpost empty. The buildings were dark. The streets were silent. The Valorian commander ordered his troops to spread out and search for the humans. That was his first mistake. Kyle's soldiers were hiding in tunnels beneath the outpost. They had planted explosives in buildings, set traps in doorways, and hidden snipers in positions the Valorians would never expect. When the alien soldiers moved into the kill zones, Kyle gave the signal. The explosions shook the ground. Buildings collapsed on top of Valorian troops. Snipers opened fire from hidden positions, their shots precise and deadly. Before the aliens could organize a response, Kyle's soldiers emerged from the tunnels and attacked from all sides. The Valorians were confused. They had never seen tactics like this. Their commanders screamed orders, but the humans moved too fast, hit too hard, and disappeared before the aliens could strike back. Within 2 hours, the Valorian ground force was destroyed. The surviving ships retreated to the main fleet. On the bridge of the devastation, Warlord Zyrax received the report in stunned silence. He had sent 50 ships to crush a small outpost. He had lost 30 ships and over 1,000 soldiers. The humans had lost less than 50. "Impossible," Zyrax growled. "They are primitives. How did they defeat our warriors?" His second command had no answer. Zyrax stood from his throne, his 4 eyes burning with rage. He had shown mercy by giving humanity time to surrender. He had shown patience by sending only a small force first. Now he was done being gentle. "All ships advance," he commanded. "Every single vessel. We will not stop until Earth is ash and every human is dead. I will personally watch their world burn." The entire Valorian armada began to move. On the horizon, Danny received the news. The enemy was coming with everything they had. Over 3,000 warships heading straight for Earth. Katie looked at Danny with worry in her eyes. "What do we do?" Danny watched the red dots on the display moving closer. Then he smiled. "We do what we always do, Lieutenant. We fight, and we win." The space between Mars and Earth became a battlefield. Commander Danny Harris stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching as the Valorian armada approached. 3,000 warships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the distant sun. Each ship was a monster of metal and fire, built to destroy anything in its path. Behind Danny, 200 human ships waited in a defensive line. They were smaller, weaker, and outnumbered 15 to 1, but they were not afraid. "All ships report ready, Commander," Lieutenant Katie Morgan announced from her tactical station. "Dr. Cole's frequency disruptors are installed and charged." Danny nodded. "Tell all captains to hold formation. No one fires until I give the order. We need to let them get close." On the other side of the battlefield, High Warlord Xyrax watched the human fleet with amusement. His ships had sensors powerful enough to scan every vessel in the enemy formation. He knew their weapons, their armor, their engine power. By every measurement, the humans were outmatched in every way. "They're not running," his second-in-command observed. "They're too stupid to run," Xyrax replied. "Or too proud. Either way, they will die screaming." He raised his hand. "All ships, open fire." Thousands of Valorian weapons activated at once. Beams of pure energy shot across space, turning the darkness into a storm of deadly light. The human ships scattered, moving in patterns that seemed chaotic but were carefully planned. Most of the beams missed. Some hit, and human ships exploded in balls of flame. But the humans did not retreat. Danny gripped the armrest of his command chair as the horizon shook from a near miss. "Katie, status on the disruptors?" "Charged and ready. Waiting for your command." "Wait until they're closer. I want them packed tight when we hit them." The Valorian fleet pushed forward, confident that victory was only minutes away. Their commanders had seen this before on dozens of worlds. The enemy would fight for a while, then break and run. Then the real killing would begin. But when the distance closed to exactly where Danny wanted it, he gave the order. "All ships, activate disruptors now." Across the human fleet, 100 devices powered up and released a wave of invisible energy. It spread through space like ripples in water, washing over the Valorian armada. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the shields began to fail, aboard every Valorian ship. Alarms screamed as shield generators overloaded and flickered. Commanders shouted for their engineers to fix the problem, but the engineers had no idea what was happening. Their shields were designed to stop weapons fire, not strange energy pulses that attacked their systems from the inside. "Now," Danny commanded, "all ships, attack." The human fleet surged forward. They were smaller and faster than the Valorian warships, able to dart between the massive vessels like wolves attacking a herd of giants. Human weapons found gaps in the flickering shields and struck true. Explosions bloomed across the Valorian formation as ship after ship took damage. Katie worked her console with furious speed, coordinating attacks across the entire fleet. "Focus fire on their engine sections. Once they can't move, they can't fight." The Valorian commanders tried to respond, but their normal tactics weren't working. They were used to enemies who fought in straight lines and died in neat rows. The humans fought like nothing they had ever seen. They attacked from every direction at once. They used their own damaged ships as shields. They crashed dying vessels into enemy bridges. High Warlord Xyrax stood frozen on his bridge, watching his fleet fall apart around him. This was impossible. The Valorians had conquered 200 worlds. They had crushed every enemy they had ever faced. These humans were supposed to be weak primitives with primitive technology. "Warlord, we're taking heavy losses," his second-in-command reported. "Over 300 ships destroyed. Our shield generators are failing across the fleet." "How?" Xyrax demanded. "How are they doing this?" But there was no answer. There was only the sound of explosions and the screams of dying Valorian soldiers. Across the galaxy, in the chambers of the Galactic Assembly, Ambassador Torvik watched the battle through a long-range communication relay. He had sent humanity the data about the Valorians because he felt sorry for them. He had expected to watch them die bravely, but pointlessly, like so many species before them. He had not expected this. "They're winning," he whispered to himself. "The humans are actually winning." Council Speaker Malith stood beside him, her face pale with shock. "This cannot be real. The Valorians have never lost a battle." "They're losing now," Torvik replied. "The humans have found a way to break their shields. And without shields, the Valorians are just as vulnerable as anyone else." The battle raged for 6 hours. By the end, over 1,000 Valorian ships had been destroyed. Another 500 were too damaged to fight. The human fleet had lost ships too, nearly half their force. But the survivors were still fighting, still pushing, still refusing to give up. On the horizon, Danny looked at the tactical display with exhaustion in his eyes. His ship was damaged, his crew was tired, and he had lost too many good people. But they were still alive. Earth was still safe. "Katie, open a channel to the Valorian flagship." Katie raised an eyebrow. "You want to talk to them?" "I want to give them a chance to end this before more people die." "On both sides." The channel opened, and High Warlord Xyrax's face appeared on the screen. He looked different now. The arrogance was gone from his eyes, replaced by confusion and rage. "This is Commander Danny Harris of Earth's Defense Fleet," Danny said calmly. "Your invasion has failed. Your ships are burning. Your soldiers are dying. I'm giving you one chance to surrender. Take your remaining fleet and leave our solar system. Never come back. If you refuse, we will destroy every last ship you have." Xyrax stared at Danny for a long moment. No one had ever spoken to him like this. No enemy had ever offered him mercy instead of begging for it. "You think you've won?" Xyrax hissed. "You think this is over? I will burn your world to ashes. I will make your species extinct. You have no idea what you're dealing with." Danny leaned forward. "You came to our home and threatened our families. You promised to kill every man, woman, and child on our planet. And now, after we beat your fleet and killed your soldiers, you're still making threats?" He smiled. "You have no idea what you're dealing with either." The channel closed. Danny turned to Katie. "Prepare for the next wave. This isn't over yet." High Warlord Xyrax stood in the center of his damaged bridge, surrounded by smoke and sparks from broken consoles. Half his fleet was destroyed. His shields were useless. His proud armada had been humiliated by creatures he considered barely more than animals, but Xyrax had not conquered 63 worlds by accepting defeat. "Activate." "The World Killer," he commanded. His second-in-command froze. "Warlord, that weapon was meant for total planetary destruction. If we use it here, we cannot claim Earth's resources. There will be nothing left." "I don't care about resources anymore," Xyrax snarled. "I care about sending a message. Every species in the galaxy is watching this battle. If Earth survives, others will think they can resist us too. The Valorian Dominion cannot show weakness. If we cannot have Earth, no one will. Deep within the devastation, ancient machinery began to power up. The World Killer was a weapon of last resort, a device capable of cracking a planet's crust and turning its surface into a sea of fire. It had been used only twice in Valorian history, both times to punish worlds that refused to submit. Now it would be used on Earth, on the horizon. Alarms began screaming as sensors detected the massive energy buildup on the enemy flagship. Lieutenant Katie Morgan's face went pale as she read the data. Commander, they're charging some kind of superweapon. Based on the energy signature, it has enough power to destroy Earth completely. Commander Danny Harris felt his blood run cold. How long until it's ready to fire? 20 minutes. Maybe less. 20 minutes. That was all the time they had to save 8 billion lives. Danny opened a channel to the fleet. All ships, focus everything on the Valorian flagship. We need to destroy it before that weapon fires. Human ships swarmed toward the devastation, pouring every weapon they had into its hull. But the flagship was massive, built to survive the worst punishment any enemy could deliver. Even with damaged shields, it was absorbing the attacks and holding together. It's not enough, Katie said desperately. We can't punch through in time. Danny made his decision in less than a second. Then we go inside. He turned to his communications officer. Get me Sergeant Kyle Patterson. Tell him to meet me in the shuttle bay with his best soldiers. We're boarding that ship. 15 minutes later, 3 human shuttles launched from the horizon and raced toward the devastation. Inside the lead shuttle, Danny checked his rifle and looked at the soldiers around him. Kyle Patterson sat across from him, his face calm and focused. Ever boarded an alien ship before, Commander? Kyle asked. First time for everything, Sergeant. Kyle grinned. Just follow my lead. When we get inside, move fast and kill everything that isn't human. No hesitation, no mercy. These things wanted to kill our families. We're going to make them regret that choice. The shuttles crashed through a damaged section of the devastation's hull and skidded to a stop inside, a massive cargo bay. The doors blew open, and human soldiers poured out with weapons blazing. Valorian guards rushed to meet them, and the cargo bay became a storm of gunfire and blood. The aliens were bigger and stronger than humans, but they fought like soldiers who had never faced a real challenge. They expected enemies who would retreat, who would hesitate, who would break. The humans did none of those things. Danny fought alongside his soldiers, his rifle spitting death with every shot. Beside him, Kyle led the charge deeper into the ship, his soldiers moving with brutal efficiency. They cleared room after room, corridor after corridor, leaving dead Valorians behind them. Back on the horizon, Dr. Ryan Cole worked frantically at his console, using the data from Torvik to map the devastation's interior. Commander, the weapon is located in the ship's core. I'm sending directions to your tactical display. You need to go down 3 levels and through the main engineering section. Danny received the map on his wrist device. How much time do we have? 8 minutes. 8 minutes to fight through an enemy ship filled with thousands of soldiers. 8 minutes to find and disable a weapon that could kill everyone on Earth. Move! Danny shouted. Double time. We're not dying today. The humans pushed forward with desperate speed. Valorians tried to stop them at every turn, but nothing could slow the attackers down. Kyle's soldiers fought with the fury of people protecting their home, their families, everything they loved. They reached the engineering section with 4 minutes left. The World Killer was there, a massive cylinder of dark metal covered in glowing symbols and pulsing with terrible energy. Valorian engineers worked frantically at consoles around it, trying to speed up the firing sequence. Kyle's soldiers opened fire, cutting down the engineers before they could react. But as the last body fell, a door at the far end of the room slid open, and High Warlord Xyrax stepped through. He was massive, over 8 feet tall, covered in battle armor that had been stained with the blood of countless victims. In his hands he carried a weapon that looked like a sword made of pure energy. "You think you can stop me?" Xyrax roared. "I have killed thousands with my own hands. I have crushed empires. I am the greatest warrior the galaxy has ever known." Danny stepped forward, dropping his rifle and drawing his combat knife. "And I'm just a human who doesn't know when to quit." They charged at each other. The fight was brutal and fast. Xyrax was stronger, but Danny was quicker. The alien's energy blade cut through the air where Danny had been a moment before, missing by inches. Danny's knife found gaps in Xyrax's armor, drawing blood, making the warlord scream with pain and rage. 2 minutes left. Xyrax landed a blow that sent Danny crashing into a wall. Pain exploded through his body, and he tasted blood in his mouth. The warlord advanced, raising his blade for the killing strike. "Die, human." Danny looked up at the monster towering over him. Then he pulled a grenade from his belt and shoved it into a crack in Xyrax's armor. The explosion threw them both across the room. When Danny opened his eyes, Xyrax was on the ground, his armor shattered, his body broken. The warlord was still alive, but barely 40-5 seconds. Danny stumbled to the World Killer's control console. His vision was blurry, his hands were shaking, but he could see the emergency shutdown button. 30 seconds. He slammed his fist down on the button. The weapon powered down. The glowing symbols faded. The terrible humming stopped. Earth was safe. Danny collapsed against the console, breathing hard. Around him, his soldiers cheered, their voices echoing through the damaged engineering bay. Kyle walked over and helped Danny to his feet. "Not bad, Commander." "Not bad at all." Danny looked down at the broken body of High Warlord Xyrax, the most feared conqueror in the galaxy, defeated by a species he had called primitive. "Get him to the medics," Danny said. "He's going to stand trial for his crimes. Death would be too easy for him." The humans had won. 3 months had passed since the battle for Earth. The news of humanity's victory had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had lived in terror of the Valorian dominion for centuries suddenly found hope. Worlds that had surrendered without fighting began to whisper about rebellion. And everywhere, creatures of all shapes and sizes spoke a single name with wonder and fear. Humans. Commander Danny Harris, now promoted to Admiral, stood in the shuttle as it descended toward the Galactic Assembly's headquarters. The building was enormous, a floating city of crystal and light that hung in orbit around the purple gas giant. Representatives from over 100 species gathered here to discuss the future of the galaxy. Today, they were gathering to meet the species that had done the impossible. Lieutenant Katie Morgan sat beside Danny, wearing her dress uniform and looking uncomfortable. "I still don't understand why they want us here. We just defended our home. It's not like we wanted to start a war." "That's exactly why they want us here," Danny replied. "Every other species that fought the Valorians did it because they had no choice. We're the first ones who won. That makes us interesting." Dr. Ryan Cole sat on Danny's other side, his eyes wide as he stared out the window at the massive station. "This is incredible. The technology required to build something like this is beyond anything we've ever imagined. I could spend a lifetime studying just one section of it." "Maybe you'll get the chance," Danny said. "If this meeting goes well, we might be making a lot of new friends." The shuttle landed in a docking bay filled with alien vessels of every design. Creatures of dozens of species stopped to stare as the humans walked past. Some looked at them with curiosity. Others looked at them with fear. A few looked at them with something that might have been hope. They were led through winding corridors to the main assembly chamber. It was a vast circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Hundreds of representatives sat watching as the humans were escorted to the platform. Council Speaker Melith stood at a podium, her blue skin shimmering under the chamber's lights. She was tall and thin, with large black eyes that seemed to see everything at once. When she spoke, her voice echoed through the chamber. Representatives of the Galactic Assembly, we have gathered today to welcome a new species to our community. 3 months ago, the Valorian Dominion attacked the planet Earth, expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they met defeat for the first time in their history. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some representatives shifted nervously in their seats. The Valorians had ruled through fear for so long that many still couldn't believe they had lost. Melith continued. The humans have proven themselves to be formidable warriors. But more importantly, they have shown us that the Valorians can be beaten. Today, we formally invite the human species to join the Galactic Assembly as full members. She turned to Danny. Admiral Harris, would you like to address the assembly? Danny walked to the podium. He looked out at the sea of alien faces, some friendly, some hostile, most simply curious. He thought about all the soldiers who had died in the battle. He thought about the families they had left behind. He thought about everything humanity had sacrificed to survive. Then he spoke. 3 months ago, an empire came to our world and demanded that we surrender. They told us we were weak. They told us we were primitive. They told us we would be destroyed if we resisted. Danny paused, letting the words sink in. They were wrong. The chamber was completely silent. We are not here because we want to conquer anyone. We are not here because we want power or territory or slaves. We are here because we believe in something simple. Every species has the right to be free. Every world has the right to choose its own future. And anyone who threatens that right will have to answer to us. Danny looked directly at Melith. We will join your assembly. We will work with any species that wants peace. But let me be clear about one thing. His voice hardened. If any empire, any warlord, any force in this galaxy threatens innocent lives, humanity will stand against them. We didn't come to the stars to watch others suffer. We came to make sure no one has to live in fear again. The silence stretched for a long moment. Then slowly applause began to ripple through the chamber. It started with a few species, then spread, growing louder until the entire assembly was on their feet. From his seat in the gallery, Ambassador Torvik watched with tears in his eyes. He had sent humanity information about the Valorians because he expected them to die. Instead, he had helped them survive. Now he understood that his act of kindness had changed the galaxy forever. After the ceremony, Torvik approached Danny in a private meeting room. Admiral Harris, I want to thank you. What you said in there gave my people hope for the first time in generations. Danny shook the ambassador's hand. We couldn't have won without the data you sent us. You saved our world before we even knew we needed saving. I would like to propose a formal alliance between our species, Torvik said. There are others who feel the same way. Worlds that have lived under Valorian threat for too long. With humanity leaving, we could build something new. A coalition of free worlds. Danny smiled. I think we'd like that very much. Far from the Galactic Assembly, in a heavily guarded prison ship, High Warlord Zyrak sat in a cell made of energy fields and reinforced metal. His armor was gone. His weapons were gone. His power was gone. All that remained was an old conqueror waiting to face judgment for his crimes. Guards from a dozen different species watched him constantly. Representatives of worlds he had destroyed lined up to witness his trial. For the first time in his life, Xerax understood what it felt like to be helpless. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity would not stop with him. They would hunt down every warlord, free every slave. and tear apart every empire built on cruelty and fear. He had created a monster he could not control. Back on Earth, Sergeant Kyle Patterson stepped off a transport shuttle and walked down the ramp in the warm sunlight. A small town spread out before him, peaceful and quiet, with green hills rising in the distance. A woman and 2 children waited at the edge of the landing pad. His family. Kyle's wife ran to meet him, throwing her arms around his neck. His children grabbed his legs, laughing and crying at the same time. For a moment, the old soldier forgot about the war, about the aliens, about everything except the people he loved. "I'm home," he whispered. "I'm finally home." On the horizon, now undergoing repairs in Earth's orbit, Admiral Danny Harris stood alone on the observation deck. The stars stretched out before him, endless and mysterious, full of worlds he had never seen and species he had never met. Admiral Laura Bennett's voice came through his communicator. "Thinking about the future?" Danny smiled. "Just wondering what comes next. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. The whole galaxy is watching us now." Danny looked out at the stars, at the infinite possibilities they represented. Humanity had survived its first test. They had proven themselves to an entire galaxy that had expected them to fail. But this was only the beginning. There were worlds out there that needed help, species that needed protection, evils that needed to be stopped. And humanity would be there, ready to fight, ready to sacrifice, ready to show the universe what it meant to never give up. They thought they were predators. They learned we were survivors, and the galaxy would never be the same again.